Hello, guys. I went to locals yesterday and I went undefeated, and I would like to bring you the deck profile. I've not been posting much about the deck because I've still been trying to solve this, but I also had a couple of university things to do, and not too much has changed since my last build. Um, so that I basically just cut some cards so that we would get to 40 cards. And also I was looking for cards that would help you see your power cards, because this deck is very revolved around the two strong cards, which are Diviner and Nadir. You're not required to open them to win, but if you open them, your win chance goes up pretty dramatically. But if you don't open them, it goes a little bit down because your deck becomes more vulnerable to hand traps and everything. But without further ado, let's get to the actual meat of the deck. Nekroz cards, triple Brio, triple Unicorn, and one Clausulos. Is the same from last time. As said, that like I've been trying to test Trish again because you like Trish, you know, he's the power play of the deck. It's kind of the iconic power play of the deck. But every time you like see Trish in your opening hand, you just want to go and play, I don't know, Mystic Mind Burn, because the card is horrible to draw. And same with Necros Mirror. Uh, or you want to just like completely play another game because it's so awful, the card. And like playing two bricks just to justify a banish one on field and banish one on hand. The banish one in graveyard is like not even really important because you can banish three if you want to, and you don't even go that neg for it. So yeah, so this is the Nekroz monster ratios. And for our last ritual monster, we are still playing the Sky. Sky is so good. I love this card so much. Probably my new favorite ritual card. Uh, because like he's so versatile for an interruption. The only thing that really disturbs me about him is that he's not a quick effect, but a trigger effect. If he would have been a quick effect, he would be so much harder to play around. But because he's a trigger effect, you can imperm him, and that makes not activate, which is pretty sad. You can't chain to imperm. I've seen a lot of players on Dueling Book. I usually dwell upon like the players that play Necros on Dueling Book and spectate them more often than not. And every time I see this card, I see them cheat with this because they think this is a quick effect, but this has to require that your opponent activated the card. Uh, if the effect that is activated is negated, not the activation, then you can still activate him. So he works with Fleur and Unicorn. Um, then best card and the actual best cards. Um, well, not really best. They're really good. Um, Specifically at my locals, this thing carried me against Virtual World because this thing can, if you Gabba the Tzolk'in, they like die. They completely they're bored as shit. They maybe end on Chuche Pass, but because this card stops two interruptions from coming down if it's on Sulkin and it resolves. And I also normal summoned this once yesterday. It was funny. I went for game with him. Then for the Dogmatika stuff, the rest of the Dogmatika stuff, Triple Ecclesia. I still got the Starlight, don't worry, but I decided not to play it because at locals you don't want to bring too expensive cards. Um, then Maximus and Fleur. All in all, these cards are pretty solid. Some But what sucks sometimes is that you have to sometimes use the effect of Ecclesia to search the ritual spell, because sometimes your deck just wants the ritual spell. And like summoning the White Knight, this guy here, is as good as activating the deer, actually. Like because you get the same value out of it. It's crazy. Then triple diviner and the egg. People have been testing around with the orange light and Eva stuff, but it's honestly garbage. Like just in theory, it's already garbage because you don't play many fairies. And like if you want to play the Eva stuff, you have to play like 8 fairies minimum to for it to be even effective. But this is like almost always effective. Sad if you draw the egg and the target for it, which is Sanctuary. And all in all, this also gives you a good amount of ceiling and lets you do some link plays and can get you like another search. And summoning Brionac is pretty effective to out certain cards, like big extra deck monsters. It's really effective at doing that. And then the last monster is Ariel. We're not running many hand traps yet again. To say again why hand traps are really bad in Nekroz, you have to treat this deck like Virtual World, but with more engine space. And every hand trap that you play is like you could instead have like an engine card that lets you play through boards pretty well. And like this deck plays pretty well through most boards, except for the Prankets board and of course the Drytron board. But this card can help going first against Drytron, which is pretty nuts. Like if you get those, you can like punishment for value against them because punishment usually doesn't have a value against Drytron, but with that card it does. For the spells, Broken Card, I love them. Please don't hit this card, thank you. I like going +1. Prep, the occasional +1, and the card that searches these two. It's the only card that can like really get you to those consistently because every draw effect in the game does not get to those, or the draw effect is very, very, very specific. Like Saryuya could get you to these cards, but for Saryuya you need to play like high quality starters, and you don't have the space for the breaks and starters for those. So instead, you just play Prosperity, and Prosperity can get you to pretty much anything you would need, and it helps you also break boards. And this is excellent banter, excellent gamma bait. I just love every time that I throw an Ash on this. I just look at them and then say Gamma F, and then I summon Omega, and then they look stupid. Other spells, 2 TTT. I cut this from 3 to 2. This card is great, but some people are catching on that on my opinion that like hand traps are not even that good this format. Like decks die to hand traps pretty quickly to the low impact ones, but like they don't play too many anymore because like you don't need too many hand traps. Like Tri Brigade, if they don't open called by, they can like play through a maximum of 2 hand traps. And like usually rather 1. And if they don't play that many hand traps, and if they play imperm, this card is not as good. But this card is good into some boards, but people like to play around those. So I cut it to 2 to get to 40 cards and see Nadir more often. Ritual Sanctuary, that is the target for the egg. This card can really, really be super good, but it also can be like mediocre. It depends on the situation, honestly. If you resolve Diviner combo, this card is of course insane because you can like loop Diviner and everything. But people like to also Cosmic this, which is sometimes good, sometimes bad. Like they lose a card that could be used to out a punishment. Um, but all in all, this card is pretty good for the engine and gives you a little bit more grind game. Called by the Grave, please ban this card. Thank you. Cycle, double Kaleido, and a Dogmatic Calamity, the honorary Kaleido. All the ritual spells you need, because honestly, like, Mirror is trash. And for our last card, Punishment. As said, this card is pretty versatile. If you really can't do anything else, if you like Brick but have an Ecclesia, you get those. So you still have an interruption that is pretty high quality. Good. So that is the main deck. It's 40 cards. For the extra deck, there is the only change that I would do. 2 Titaniclads. I would cut this to 1 and then put a 3000 attack monster in. Probably Dragite or Chaos Ruler. Dragite is pretty good because you could get the negate, the occasional one. And Chaos Ruler could technically get you to Diviner or your other cards, your Dogmatika cards. But you risk your grind game on them. Then we also play 2 Apkalone. Apkalone is awesome. Important ruling, if you don't know it already. This card can add itself back from grave, but it then goes to the extra deck, and because it doesn't go to hand, you don't have to discard for it. So basically, you can chain block using those, which is pretty great. It's like a totally awesome that adds itself back. Then, but all in all, this is used to loop Ariel as much as possible. 2 Elder Entity. This is obvious. You don't have to play this card, but I am. Sometimes he comes in clutch, but this Friday, he was pretty mediocre. But he's also a good target for banishing off of Prosperity. I always banish 3 off Prosperity unless my hand requires me to see a specific card. Then Totally Awesome, the only Xyz monster in the deck. He's pretty good. I have cut Zeus because Zeus is pretty mediocre right now due to like not many decks playing Xyz monsters. The most obvious card in the extra deck, triple Arclights. You go through them like a breeze in the wind. If you could play 4, you would play 4. If you could play 5, you would play 5. If you could play 6, you would play 5. Omega, the way you get them back. And then for the Link monsters, Almirage, most important Link monster in the extra deck because if you get hand trapped on Diviner but have Nadir Axis or Ecclesia, you need this card to summon the Ecclesia. And like every normal summon is either Ecclesia or target for Almirage, which is pretty important. Then Lina, she is the second most important link because sometimes if you open the egg and like 2 spells engrave, then this can allow you to search Ecclesia, which is pretty important sometimes. Like you ram this thing into an opponent's monster, and also this is important to link cards away because most of your cards are light monsters. And sometimes, like in Dogma mirrors, this card is really, really good because you can summon your opponent's Ecclesia and gain value off of that. And then you got Selene. This card can summon back White Knight of Dogmatika if your opponent outed it. So sometimes I use this. If you can get 6 tokens on this, this thing is so good. You don't need access code for this. So that is the extra deck. So now for the spice. Let's start off with some classic stuff. For the side deck, Triple Troll, My Couch und Schlossvogel. this is literally just against Drytron, because you need cards against Drytron because Drytron is your worst matchup, and your second worst is Prankids. But versus Prankids, I got a little bit of other hate. And then the card that you always side with it, the Phantasme. I'm playing Phantasme over Cycle Reader because Phantasme is more applicable to different decks. This is good against Rogue, good against Meta. Only really shit against weird decks. But boy, this card can really carry your hand because this gets you to Nadir, and if you have Nadir, you can play through boards. That's for the monsters. And now for the spells. Triple Twin Twatters. This is pretty good. You sided against Prankets because if they don't play the Thunder Dragon stuff, this stops their board from killing you. The board is FTK against you. You can't do much about it except for open this or this. And now the card that carried me through the weekend, Degeneracy. This card beats pretty much anything. Like any good card that they can side against you. This card beats Called By, it beats Droplets, it beats Dark Ruler, and it beats the main decks of Drytron and Prankids, as well as some other rogue decks. If you play the Mirror and they don't play Dogmatika stuff, this card is also cheeky, of course. Good that Drytron is right now not playing the Relinquished Anima, because Relinquished Anima outs this card. But otherwise, like, this card is so good. It's like if you your standard end board usually is like you have one Ecclesia, this in hand, your Unicorn and your White Knight, and this is your standard end board. So you already got like 3 spellcasters and 1 in hand, and then if you activate this, you then like, yeah, your opponent cannot use their Dark Rulers that they probably sided against Unicorn. They cannot use their Droplets against this, and there's no, and Twin Twisters does not out this card, or like Cosmic, so it's really really hard to deal with. And because they can't go into the extra deck, cards like Phoenix and others like those cannot deal with it. And of course, you like completely destroy Striker with this card. They can't do anything against this. So like you just like win if you open this. Versus Drytron, you definitely side this and Droll going first, and going second you side Phantasme and Droll. Versus Prankids, going first you side this and I think also Phantasme, because you want cards. Though you don't need a side Phantasme. And then you versus Tri Brigade, you can side Phantasme, and that's about it. And going first, you don't even need to side against Tri Brigade because this deck inherently has an amazing matchup against Tri Brigade. All in all, I went undefeated. Though I drew in my first game, but I would have won it, honestly. Match 1 was my draw. I played against PKBA, and game 1 I opened trash and he opened nuts, so that was an auto loss. Game 2, I went first. He hand trapped me. I TTT'd his hand and ruined it, and then I outgrinded him and I like used 5 times Aerial and stopped him from ever having BA and PK monsters in his graveyard. And then game 3, he opened combo and would have been like 2 Fog Blades and an Appaloosa, but I had Kaleido Unicorn and I had Phantasma in hand. I had the Deer and I had another Twin Twisters in hand. So my hand was cracked and would have guaranteed killed him. Phantasma, yeah, would have carried me through that, but then time was called as I was mid breaking his board. Then match 2 was against Cyber Dragon. With Dragoon stuff. He made me go first. He couldn't out the board. Game 2, he made me go first, and he could out the board because he opened Dark Ruler. And then he like top decked very fortunate for him, so he got a Pankratops, and Pankratops is one of the cards that solos the stack. And then then I went first, game 3, and I opened this board plus Secret Village, and he opened 4 spells. So that was GG. And then match 3 against Virtual World, he goes first. He tries to open the Tzolk'in combo with Kaliga, but I gamma the Tzolk'in and he passes on Chuche, and then I power through his board. I didn't open Nadir, but I opened both parts of this. And I opened Ecclesia and I opened Unicorn Kaleido, so it basically was as if I opened Nadir with one shit card. And then match 2, he opened like everything, but he failed the combo because he messed up the he messed up an ad, and so he ended on Shenshen Chuche, and Shenshen doesn't do anything against the stack. So I powered through the Shenshen, and then he forgot Unicorn. He completely forgot that Unicorn existed, and he wanted to go for Tzolk'in under Unicorn. But it didn't matter because I still had Fleur, so I could have negated the Tzolk'in anyways, even if he had an imperm for the Unicorn. And all in all, I stopped him from having a grind game, and I 2-0'd him. And match 4 was against Drytron. He went first. I didn't open a gamma. I scooped after he destroyed my Fleur that I summoned on his turn. I should have not summoned it because it gave him hat knowledge, or deck knowledge. Then match 2, I ended again on this plus Secret Village. He tried to Dark Ruler me. I said no. And then he lost. And then match 3, he opened 1 Drytron and the Fairy Hand. And I had a Gamma. I had a Phantasme, not a Gamma. And Phantasme drew me into Nadir. And because he had only 1 Drytron and no Divine. He had Alpha and Diviner. And Alpha and Diviner is not combo. And he had a ton of orange lights, but 1 orange light doesn't stop the stack. And then I just set this up. He orange lighted something. I didn't care. Yeah, he orange lighted my Diviner, but I still had Nadir, and then just game, because then I set this up, and I knew what was in hand because he tried to cheat me. So I got hand knowledge off of this. But then he tried to play an illegal play, and from that I deducted that he doesn't have any other Drytrons, and if he top decks a Drytron, I then went just for the Maximus, and Maximus sent the Elder Entity, not the Elder Entity, the Apkalone, and Apkalone sent Ariel to banish his Drytron engrave. And he was on a top deck then because he used orange lights, and they reduce your hand significantly. And from there, I just had this board with Fleur. I was pretty sure to win. I just didn't have this because I took it back out because I went second. And then I top decked Droll, so I would have won anyways. So yeah, that's how I won locals. 3 wins, 1 draw. 10 points. Was a 4. Was I think 12-man locals. It's not too big, but hey, it's something. And yeah. Also, if you're wondering how my YCS went, it went horribly. I had the worst kind of matchup luck. If you play against Guru with this deck, you're absolutely not going to have a good time. This deck cannot play against Guru and cannot play against other back row decks really, which is why so much back row hate is in the side deck. But yeah, that rounds up the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see ya.